Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Today is November 9th, 2022, and I'm just excited to be able to welcome you to our weekly call. It is called the Corona Chamber Business Briefing. For those that are brand new, that are on the call today, or that are listening on one of the recordings, this is one of our programs that we do through our advocacy outreach and our updates for you as a business owner or a citizen in our local area here, to give you the updates and the most recent information that is accessible. We've got a team of people that put this thing together. I want to acknowledge and thank Anthony Maldonado, who has just jumped in and done so much on these calls, and he does all the heavy lifting of getting all the slides up and doing things and getting it all coordinated. And I also want to acknowledge our advocate, Jeff Gibson, who has worked tirelessly, especially with the election last night and getting last minute updates here for us today. But I also want to now introduce our chair for this committee. This is a gentleman that has served the state assembly years ago, representing all businesses. What was unique and nice with him is that he was able to share all the different meanings of owning a business, because he successfully has owned his own business for a number of years. He's worked on both sides of the aisles. There was no R or D or any initials after. It was just common sense. And oftentimes some of his colleagues would call him to better understand some of the things and how it would impact their constituents. So he's a man with lots of knowledge and wealth, and when it comes to the political arena. Jeff was also our city council member and the mayor of Corona, and he's just been a tremendous asset for us. My biggest asset for me, though, with him is that he's accessible to bounce off questions and to find out things. He's a local business owner. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jeff Miller.
Thank you, Bobby. I really appreciate that. And here we are, post-election. And we've got some great updates, campaign updates. We'll get to those once we get to Jeff Gibson. I hope everybody is doing well, and I am honored that you all took time out of your day to join our call. So today's meeting is sponsored by Middle Tree. Middle Tree is a nonprofit education center unlike any other. They were designed as a public mission fix to the way education is done. They give students a personalized educational path that allows them all the time they need to work while making sure they can afford it. Thank you, Middle Tree, for sponsoring the meeting. As a reminder, there's a little chat button on the bottom of the screen. You can use that if you want to ask any questions of me, Jeff, Chamber, whoever. And with that, I'm honored. Our mayor's on the line. I'm gonna go to him after I go to our illustrious, extraordinaire chair of the board, Paul Bender-Badesha. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff, and right back at you. So everyone's being really nice to me because I'm now in the last 7 weeks, I think, of being chair. And I know Bobby's counting down the days, bless him. And
you know tomorrow, what, you are. I'm publicly calling you out on that. I'm not counting down the days. Okay,
I'm just making fun of myself. But just wanted to say, I was in Dallas last week for an Express franchisee retreat, those of us who did a leadership course, and then we get together once a year to kind of just brainstorm, see what's going on. And it was only about 80 people. Learned a lot from them, but I have to tell you, I'm a little jealous of the Tennessee owner that's kind of doing, he and I opened at the same time. We were in training together back at the beginning of 2006, and he is a level platinum in Express for our sales. And I was at silver last year and probably not tracking for that this year. And I was like, oh my God. And people were so shocked that we have to pay COVID pay. I mean, very few of them have sick pay. It's a different world. So I found myself saying, oh my God, some of us should get an award for just being in business and keeping our doors open in California. And then I had to stop myself because it sounded a little whingy and defensive. So, but I will tell you that despite all of the challenges of doing business here, particularly in Southern California, I was so glad to come back home. Corona is home, the Corona business community, the city of Corona, and how we work together and collaborate to support each other is just phenomenal. So just wanted to say, yes, it's tough to do business here. And those owners that I met from Alabama and Tennessee, they're amazing people, but they would probably have no idea what it's like to navigate. And what I appreciate is the support of like the mayor, West Speak, and the chamber and our organizations in town to help us continue to stay in business and navigate. So another plug for the chamber. Woohoo! Come tomorrow to Good Morning Corona. It's going to be my last one on stage, so I'm going to control myself. All right. Thank you.
No. Nothing against the future chair of the board, but we like you, girl.
Thank
you. Thank you, Paul Bender. Just to confirm, you used a word called it's a whingy. Is whingy? Was that the word you used?
Yes, whinging. You don't use that here?
What is that?
It means whinging, just griping, I think, and moaning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But moaning sounds a bit weird, so I'd use whingy.
Okay. Well, maybe everybody else has heard. It was new to me and it caught my ear. Or maybe I'm just tired because my election night party was a Dropkick Murphys concert last night in Los Angeles. So, anyways, let me get back to our mayor. Thank you, Mayor West Speak, for joining the call. I'm sure you have a few updates and would like to say hi to the group. And if not, that's okay too.
No, I'm good. Thanks, Jeff. And I think Councilmember Steiner was at Dropkick Murphys last night too. So I'm interested to hear it was a good night.
It was a good night. It was a good night.
Yeah, I'm excited. To announce so far, at least it looks like I'm pretty far ahead. And as of this morning, I had gotten 83% of the vote. So I'm feeling pretty good. So I never like to declare victory before, but I feel pretty good. So I think it also looks like Councilmember Steiner didn't have any opposition, and Councilmember Casillas had a very comfortable lead as well. So I don't think you're going to see any changes at the city council, which is a good thing. I think that we have a very cohesive team. I think that we work really well with the chamber and work really well with business. I'm really pleased to work with Paul Bender this year on our Live Work Corona program, and we're going to continue that. We came out with a new video last week that's getting shared around. It's basically kind of targeting local folks to work local and hooking them up with getting folks to take the challenge to hire local. And the next phase of that is basically going to be actively looking for people that are looking to change jobs, and how many of those jobs are either in Corona or out of Corona, and then trying to attract those businesses here into town so we can get more folks off the freeway and in shopping here and dining here without having to sit on the freeway for an hour or two every night and every morning and miss out on that time with family. So thanks for the opportunity, and very pleased to speak to you guys this morning, and looking forward to the update.
Thank you so much, Wes. And obviously it looks like congratulations are in order, and we're going to be holding on to some of our existing electeds like you, and we're going to have some new electeds. So it should be an interesting road. All right, Anthony, I'm going to turn it over to you for any announcements that you might have.
Thank you, Jeff. Just one quick announcement, on top of the announcement that Paul Bender did, make earlier about Good Morning Corona tomorrow. Please show up. It is going to be a blast. We have over 250 registered attendees right now. So we would really appreciate it if you showed up. The other announcement that I want to make is about our veteran-owned business seminar, which will be next Tuesday, November 15th. This is in partnership with the City of Corona and will feature a panel of speakers representing local veteran-owned businesses. They're going to be sharing their insight and guidance to veterans who may be interested in starting their own businesses, or veterans that already have their own businesses and just want to learn a little bit more. We will also have a speaker from the County of Riverside who will be providing information on some of the resources that are offered for veteran-owned businesses. This seminar is free to attend. Like I said, next Tuesday, 12 p.m. here at the Corona Chamber. And for more information, visit the link that I will put in the chat, or scan the QR code on your screen. With that, back to you, Jeff.
All right. All right. Thank you, Anthony. Let's get right into the meat of the matter. I'd like to introduce our political consultant and advocate, Jeff Gibson. Jeff owns Occidental Communications Group. For the past 35 years, he has specialized in political campaigns, government affairs, government relations, and has specialized in many areas of business development and transportation and housing, the environment, and a variety of other topics. Jeff, take it away. Ready when you are.
Sorry about that, guys. All right, so obviously the election is the top line issue. There are going to be some new faces. It's very difficult to say precisely what's going to happen, because unlike almost every single county registrar in the country, Riverside has only counted 30% of the votes. This continues, and every 2 years I say this is an abomination. That office needs to be the registrar of voters, and we need to hold our elected officials accountable on this from both parties. That registrar of voters office needs to be reformed from top to bottom. We are 14 hours into the elections season, and you're looking in Orange County and having only 30% of the votes left to count, and that's an abomination. Where you have 37 counties in California, both Republican counties and Democrat counties, that are done counting completely. And in Riverside County, they were only able to count 30% of the votes, and they took 14 hours to do that. It's absolutely phenomenally bad. So when we are meeting with the county, they definitely understand that literally the registrar of voters has 2 to 3 jobs. One of them is, and all of that is enshrined in the Constitution, and is something that every single person agrees upon. And we can't get that done within any reasonable amount of time. Saying that you're going to take 18 days to count votes. Now, as the law prescribes, you're supposed to take 18 days to check the count of votes. And I'm not saying that every vote should not be counted. It's a totally different issue. This is an issue of competency. And it's very routine to have elections in Riverside County have late vote counts for no reason other than the incompetency of that office. And so I have been on the record for a very long time about this, and I'm going to continue to bore everybody with it. So, but with that said, there were 2 congressional seats that are up. Both are being held in the balance. The western portion of Corona very likely will be represented by Young Kim in Congress. In the next Congress, she is from she's generally from North Orange County. We're going to have two different senators. Can't really give you exactly who that is yet. Our current congressman, who has been our congressman for quite some time, Ken Calvert, is not ahead, I guess is the kindest way to say that, and has been behind most of the evening. He's behind by about, so currently, and I'll just let you be the judge, with 292,000 ballots, so about 1 out of every 3 ballots to count left in Orange County. It's another real problem that California is one of the only states that will not identify where the uncounted ballots generally are from, which is, so if you look at 49 other states that can do this, and the home of Silicon Valley cannot. So Young Kim currently is ahead, according to the Secretary of State, 59.2 to 40.8. So that's very likely not going to change. And Will Rollins, Democrat from the Coachella Valley, is currently ahead of Congressman Ken Calvert, 56.2 to 43.8. So you can make your own decisions from there. So that's going to be something that we've worked very closely with Congressman Calvert. We've worked very closely with Congressmember Mark Takano. So we have a long history of working with Dianne Feinstein's office and Alex Padilla's office and people that were before served in those offices. So no matter what their party is, we're going to be representing you. But we're going to be tracking that closely. And if there's a change in those races, we will definitely let you know. So moving on to the first slide, we're looking at the biggest thing that's upcoming between now and December is that within the state of California is that the state government is trying to work through the effect of an $8 trillion loss in value in the Silicon Valley, in Silicon Valley companies. And so the reason that obviously is important, $8 trillion is roughly the real size of the Chinese economy, which is the number 2 economy in the world. So you can imagine what that loss of value means. It's the largest and quickest loss in the value of companies in recorded human history. It's much larger than the Great Recession. And when the $175 billion in surpluses over the last 2 budget cycles has largely been driven by the buying and selling of shares largely in tech companies, this is going to be something that the state is going to be having to deal with, which is why we've been talking about the state facing a structural deficit, where last year they were facing we had a $100 billion surplus. This year we're already looking at about a $5 billion, that's with a B. I just didn't want anybody out there to get too concerned, because we were previously talking about trillions. We're looking at about a $5 billion budget shortfall. So what we're looking at right now are the same numbers that the Department of Finance is looking at in the state. So these are this is basically a preview of the economic numbers we're going to be seeing in early December in the governor's initial budget message. So looking at those numbers, looked at the jobs report. The next jobs report is coming out at the end of the week, along with inflation. The inflation number is coming out tomorrow, and what's driving employers like you and your decisions on how you're operating your companies. 61% of employers are looking at freezing wages and positions to recover supply cost increases. So these are the top 3 responses of how employers are going to look at inflation going forward in 2022 and 2023. We know that California employers and employers generally, well over 50%, believe that supply chain disruptions will last through the end of 2023 and are looking at the inflation lasting at least until 2024. So we know we're in a period of something. And so how are we going to be responding to it? Well, of your peers, 61% are looking at freezing wages and positions. 50% are actually looking at cutting positions, and 46% are looking at increasing prices. So earlier in this inflationary cycle, you would have seen those numbers largely just the opposite. In fact, you would have seen cutting positions be down in the low teens, or if at all, because people were hiring, they were increasing prices. So now what you're seeing is that employers are realizing that their ability to raise prices has pretty much played out, and now we're going to be into what would typically be seen as likely a recessionary period of time in which job losses go hand in hand with inflation increases. So in any case, that's something that the state is going to be looking at when they're putting together their budget projections. And so we're bringing it to you and then happy to discuss that with you.
Thank you, Jeff. There are no questions, so you can move on.
Okay, then looking at the second issue, which is the basic inflation and how it's working itself through the system, especially in California. California's inflation rate is actually higher than the rest of the nation. And it's higher when you even adjust for energy costs, which energy costs in California are about 50% higher. So what you're looking at are 40% of employers blame higher material costs for operational problems. 31% cite concern over inflation generally on operational problems, and 34% cite interest rates as impinging their ability to expand their operations in the next 18 months. So again, we're going to be seeing the state moving much closer to a recessionary footing. That does not mean I'm calling a recession, but in the upcoming state budget, in the upcoming battle over where we're looking as a state to invest in infrastructure, and especially if there is a change in the congressional who represents us in Congress, where we've had for a number of years, we've had a senior member of the Appropriations Committee be on the represent us in Congress. If we go to a freshman, then we're going to have to really be digging in with them on in support of continuing projects like the 91, like the 15, etc. So those are just going to be some challenges as we move out. I'm not pitching one side or the other. It's just a reality of the work that we do. So happy to answer any questions about the way the economy is being seen by our state leaders, or any question you have generally.
There are no questions at this moment.
All right. I've either stunned you into silence or you are bored beyond belief, or both. Okay, so moving on to the final, and this is a piece of news that we're going to be dealing with in the short and long term, where the Port of Los Angeles and the Port of Long Beach, which for the past 10 years or so have been the number 1 and number 2 port in North America and top 20 ports in the world. There's a looming rail strike. There's a looming dock worker strike. The Chinese economy is in reverse and experiencing recessionary conditions. And so what we're seeing is that the port of New York and New Jersey, which is a combined port, is now the largest port in the country and is now experiencing a number of landings that previously would have been coming to Los Angeles and Long Beach. The reason you're doing that is because rail costs are actually smaller, and it doesn't look like the rail strike is going to be hitting the East Coast nearly as strong. So in that era of freight volumes falling in California, we're going to be working a great deal with Washington, D.C. to make sure that the priority for the infrastructure funding, which I and Jeff can talk about this, until your road is built, there's always going to be a competition over infrastructure funding. Until you are driving on the interchange, that is when you can take it for granted that your funding is not under competition. So this is something that we're monitoring very closely. One of the things that we have been following is where trade volumes are coming from. And because Chinese ports are very attenuated towards sending their goods directly to Los Angeles, their finished goods especially, to Los Angeles into Long Beach. And then using the Alameda corridor, our rail corridors to and our trucking corridors to move that freight. By the way, one of the things that we are going to be dealing with a great deal in the new year is, as of January 1st, of the 22,000 trucks that service the ports every day, of which just about every report has said for volume to be where it needs to be, there need to be about 27,000 trucks, so we're about 5,000 short. According to CARB rules, on January 1st, 7,000 additional trucks will be taken off the roads. So we're going to be going from being 5,000 short to being 12,000 short, which does figure in if all of us on this call were running a shipping company and we heard from a port that they were losing an additional third of their trucking capacity, that clearly would be figuring into our long-term plans as we're booking out a year in advance in many cases on where shipping is going to go. So in any case, but looking at where California is internationally, over the last 5 years, the volume of finished goods manufacturing over key sectors in China, and again, China really equals freight traffic through California. You're looking at an 8.75% drop since the early part of 2017. You're looking at 5.7% increase from Vietnam. Again, that's off a smaller base, but that is a market increase, and a 1% throughout Malaysia, Bangladesh, and other Asian countries. And as you get into some of those more centrally located countries, it is easier for them to ship through the Suez Canal into New York and New Jersey. So these shifts end up having a great deal of impact on the projects that we want to see completed here in Corona. We're not making a case necessarily that we want to see more trucks, but we are working off of a generational infrastructure backlog, and any threat to getting the funding, which essentially is our tax dollars. So our fight is always to bring the tax dollars you pay back here for the projects that need to be built locally. And that's why we track these issues. So happy to answer any questions that you may have about the election or any other thing. We will be tracking the election, and we'll have more information next Wednesday. But the final results will be certified on November 26th. So that's how long these periods now last, unfortunately, which from 1776 to 2010, we could get election results within 2 to 3 days. And for some reason, it now takes, we now tolerate it taking 18 days. So, but that's just the way that works right now. Any questions, Anthony?
There are no questions in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
Jeff. Thank you very much. Lots of very interesting data. And when we're talking about supply chain issues, if the group doesn't mind, I'd like to go to Chad Miller. I'm not putting him on the spot here, but you always have a pretty good pulse of supply chain issues because of your experience and expertise in manufacturing and distribution. Do you have any updates on that from your end that would be interesting to the group?
Well, we still, it's a lot better than what it was. The price of imports of our global supply of overseas stuff is kind of, we used to, spend $4,000 with containers, but, and we were able to get them, but now it's, with COVID, we got backed up, but that's kind of corrected itself a lot, not all the way, but we still like what used to be a 1 or 2 month lead time is still about 3 to 4 for some of our tier 1 suppliers of our nylon urethanes that come from Taiwan. But yeah, so we're not back where we were with 2 months. We're still at like 4, but at least it's going the right direction slowly but surely. And a lot of our supply chain have chosen to reshore. So we do see like some chip for our consumer bed stuff. Some of our chip suppliers are doing operations here in the States now, bringing things back here to the States. So we've seen, it takes a while for that to happen, but we're seeing more of that. So we're hoping that in the year to come that we continue to see the lead times reduce. And then I can't imagine we'd see much reduction in the price of these commodities, but that we would actually be able to get our hands on these things without having like a 4-month lead time. So that's key for us.
Great. Thank you, Chad. Obviously, we'll be keeping a close eye on this. This is a major issue for our economy. And thanks for sharing, Chad. I appreciate that. I'd like to wrap up today's business meeting. I would like to go to Linda Pearson. Sorry to put her on the spot. See if there are any updates from Corona Regional Medical Center.
Hey, good morning. Everything is good at the hospital. COVID not worth talking about, but certainly it was good to hear about election results, and thank you, Jeff and Jeff. So everything's good here at Corona Regional. We're here if you need us.
Great. Thank you, Linda. Okay, with that, I want to thank a few folks for jumping on the call today. Obviously, our mayor, Corona Mayor Wes Speake, former council member Jason Scott. Thank you, Jason, from the fine city of Wildomar, Kimberly Davidson. Welcome and hi, Kimberly. And with that, I will adjourn our meeting to next Wednesday, November 16th.
Yeah, and
Have
a
a great-
reminder,
Oh.
reminder, Jeff, we will not be doing it the following Wednesday. That'll be the Wednesday right before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Okay, and then
Okay.
Jason Scott, give me a jingle on my phone, please. Thanks.
Okay, folks. Have a safe week out there. Stay warm, and we'll see you next week. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you, Anthony.